Tell me when I'm ready to go. We're good? Okay, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome. This is a reconvene meeting from our past council meeting of May 13th. We're going to reconvene and then subject to another recess. Mr. Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Bilodeau. Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilman Hernandez.
Here.
Councilman Mixon.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Present.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
Councilman Thomas. Councilman Bilodeau. Councilman Thomas. You have a quorum, Madam President.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We're going to recess and let you know when we'll be back in again. Okay, Mr. Chair?
Point of information, Madam Chair.
Yes, sir.
Do we have to take a vote in order to recess?
Wasn't
seems
that-
like
isn't-
we- it
isn't
seems
that a
like we
call of-
should, but-
Isn't that a call of the chair for recessing or reconvening?
I'm just interested in appropriate process, that's all.
Well, I'm going to go with the call of the chair. I am calling to order the recess meeting. Mr. Town Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Bilodeau.
Here.
Councilman Clark.
Here.
Councilman Gale.
Here.
Councilman Hernandez.
Here.
Councilman Mixon.
Here.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Here.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Here.
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Here.
Councilman Thomas.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader, you got the floor.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion for Financial Resolution DEMS 1. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 24-25 be amended to reflect a decrease of $482,000 to benefits and insurance 00820, row 1592, object number 82002, health benefits, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 24-25 be amended to reflect a decrease of $85,000 to non-operating department expenditures 00822, row 1658, object number 822006, pay outside agencies, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $82,000 to Human Resources 00125, row 412, object number 125004, Labor Relations for a Human Resources Analyst, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $70,000 to Police 00212, row 988, object number 212039, Career Development, to increase police cadets' rate of pay from $15.69 an hour to $19 an hour, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $70,000 to Fire 0211, row 632, object number 211004, Training, to increase fire cadets' rate of pay from $15.69 an hour to $19 an hour, and increase their hours up to 28 hours a week. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $180,000 to the non-operating department expenditures 00822, row 1628, object number 822002, payment for community impact for in-kind services in support of 4 cultural parades and festivities, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $40,000 to non-operating department expenditure 00822, row 16228, object number 822022, payment for community impact for public TV and media. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $45,000 to the Registrar of Voters 00114, row 101, object number 114001, election and administration for staff salary increase due to early voting. And be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $80,000 to sports and recreation 00142, row 558, object number 142003, sports and recreation, to increase the hourly rate of pay for lifeguards to a range of $18.86 an hour to $19.43 an hour, senior lifeguards to a range of $20.73 an hour to $23.22 an hour, and head lifeguards to a range of $23.40 an hour to $28.08 an hour.
Second.
Thank you. Motion's been made and properly second. Are there any discussion? Yes, Councilman Mitchell.
Give me a look there. I thought maybe you were going to just tell me no.
No look. Tired look.
Fair. I'll be brief. I am supporting this resolution. It is, and the Dems' other resolution. I'm pleased to see an increase for lifeguards, an increase in the next resolution we're going to discuss. I'm just doing it once, so I don't have to talk multiple times. Pleased to see an increase for the senior centers, and basically for many of the things that are in this resolution, but I feel constrained to mention what is missing. Our city is in the midst of a crisis of funding education, not a crisis of our own creation, to be sure, a crisis that falls on us through years, decades of state neglect, and that we have all sort of banged our head against the wall to try to figure out how to get out from under. But what it comes down to is that even after all of the various creative ways of mitigating the problem, our schools face some layoffs, or I should say, the getting rid of certain student-serving positions. We're not sure quite how many, between, from what I understand, after all, maybe 20 and 80 student-facing positions that existed and would have been filled, and now, at least for the coming year, will not be filled. And we have decided as a group that we can't fix that problem here, partly because state law requires us, if we make an increase to schools one year, we can't take that money away the next year. But we've flat funded schools for the better part of a decade. And the consequences of that are real. All these people sat with me at Weaver High School and listened to 50-odd parents and teachers and students talk about how bad things have gotten in our schools now, without the layoffs, without the cuts. And that's only going to get worse. And we all know that there's a bigger solution that involves the state government that we all have to work on in the coming year. And it may be unfair that we should have to take from other parts of our budget to solve a problem that is foisted on us, right? A problem that springs from the idea that you solve segregation by forcing the segregated folks to come out of pocket to unsegregate, right? That's unfair, and we all know it. But here we are, facing these layoffs, facing no arts, no music, limited paraprofessional support in many schools. And every budget is a choice that starts from zero. All this money can get allotted any which way. So when we choose to approve a budget, we are choosing all the parts of it. And what that means here is that we had the opportunity to choose between laying off teachers and paraprofessionals and guidance counselors and laying off police. And we chose to lay off the teachers and the paraprofessionals and the guidance counselors. We chose policing over education. That is what we are doing here. It's an unfortunate choice that's forced on us by others, but we made that choice, and I want to be clear about that. We made the choice only to increase lifeguard salaries, not to do any more for our new sports and rec department that we were all very excited about, and which frankly could pick up some of the slack for our schools that don't have things. We are choosing not to make that more comprehensive. We are choosing not to adequately fund the salaries of our early education teachers so that they're competitive with neighboring towns. That is a choice we make, and in lieu of that, frankly, we are choosing police. Lots of police. More police, always. That is the choice that we make here, and we should be clear about that. That's all.
Thank you, Councilman. Mr. Town Clerk, would you call the roll, please? Oh, sorry. That'll be nice of you. Thank you. Let me get you the budget. Mr. Town Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Sturgeon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman Mickham.
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. Dems Financial Resolution Number 2, resolve the pursuant to Chapter 10, Section 5C1 of the Charter of the City of Hartford, the Court of Common Council hereby authorizes the transfer of unencumbered appropriation balances in the fiscal year 23-24 budget as follows: $40,000 from unexpended and unencumbered FY 2024 funds to the Department of Health and Human Services 00520, object number 520017, Senior and Community Services for a one-time allocation for the Parkville Senior Center for operational support, and $20,000 from unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the Department of Health and Human Services 00520, object number 520017, Senior and Community Services for the one-time allocation for the South End Wellness Center for operational support, and $20,000 for unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the Department of Health and Human Services 00520, object number 520017, Senior and Community Services for one-time allocation to the North End Senior Center for operational support, and $20,000 for unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the Department of Health and Human Services 00520, object number 520017, Senior and Community Services for one-time allocation to the Hispanic Senior Center for operational support, and $40,000 from unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the Department of Public Works 00311, object number 311003, traffic services for producing and installing 400 missing faded street signs, and $40,000 from unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the non-operating department expenditures 00822, object number 822006, pay outside agencies for consultant services to conduct a comprehensive study to review, analyze, and interpret the city's policy regarding salary structures to ensure that women's salaries are competitive with those of their male counterparts, addressing any identified disparities and gender pay gap, and $50,000 from unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the non-operating department expenditures 00822, object number 822022, payment for community impact for Hartford Decides, $90,000 from unexpended and unencumbered 2024 funds to the Department of Health and Human Services 00520, object number 520017, Senior and Community Services for the purpose of promoting brain health and wellness among Hartford seniors through therapeutic exercise and activity, $250,000 from unexpended, unencumbered 2024 funds to the non-operating department expenditures 00822, object number 822002, payment for the community impact for Urban Agricultural Initiative to identify $250,000 within the $1,838,295,000 transportation funding in the 2025 capital improvement plan for traffic calming measures in the Blue Hills neighborhood.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklin,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion for Joint Financial Resolution 1. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect a decrease of $239,000 to benefits and insurance 00820 row 1575, object number 820001, pension expenses, as the required contribution is substantially lower than the projected contribution available at the time of the mayor's budget submission, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect a decrease of $602,000 to benefits insurance 00820 row 1611, object number 820012, mitigation strategies, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect a decrease of $159,000 to the non-operating department expenditures 00822 row 1658, object number 822006, pay outside agencies and others, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $1 million to benefits insurance 00820 row 1600, object number 822005, other benefits for the purpose of funding the cost of school crossing guards.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Is there any discussion? Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, I will be brief. What you see here is our commitment to helping to alleviate some of the financial burden from our friends at the Hartford Public Schools. Once upon a time, the police department did assume the financial burden of crossing guards, since in the absence of a crossing guard, the police do actually become the crossing guards. So the board did take that on. Now we are taking that back so that can be on the city side. And this is not going to be the only time before the fiscal year is over that we're going to put our collective heads together to figure out how to help the Board of Ed. There are multiple ways to do it outside of providing funding just arbitrarily to the Board of Ed, and I think that this body has already shown that we're making a commitment by way of what we had did earlier this year at the press conference with the state capitol, and then there's still ongoing conversations on how to help them out financially. We don't want to see teachers get laid off. We don't want to see programs and services be cut, and this is just one of the ways that we are putting our heads together to do that. So I look forward to working with the mayor and the rest of my colleagues on finding out a resolution to help them. But just want to point out that there are structural issues that need to be addressed, and I think that we are committed to doing so.
Thank you, Assistant Majority Leader Clark. Councilman Mitchum?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to add on to what Councilman Clark said and really drive home that there are things we can do. We can tighten up our financial ship and our management, and surely the schools can do that too. But the legislature has got to get its life right around this. Like, they are just killing us every year with a system that hurts our schools and hurts our kids. It hurts our whole fiscal system because they don't even fully fund pilot. We are providing the hospitals and the government and the methadone clinics and all kinds of services for all of the suburbs, and they don't pay for it. They come and they use it, and they don't pay for it, and they go home to their high property values, and they talk about how we can't manage our financial ship. And the problem is that we cannot manage our financial ship because they are freeloading. They get and they take, and they do not give back. And that is the fundamental problem here. And I hope our legislative delegation and everyone in the legislature hears this and realizes that it's only going to get better if they face facts about how they have set us up to fail.
Thank you, Councilman. Seeing and hearing no more discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mixon,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Now, Councilman Gale, you have the floor. Hartford Party? For the doing financials. Yes, we're going to do all the financials first from all the parties and then non-financials last.
Thank you, Madam President. Resolved, financial resolution, Hartford Party Number 1, resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect a decrease of $80,000 to benefits and insurances 00820, row 1592, object number 820002, health benefits, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $80,000 to development services 00420, row 1431, object number 420015, planning, to fund one additional position of junior planner.
Thank you, Councilman Gale. Are there any needs to be second? We got a second? Oh, thank you for second, Councilman Mitchum. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing any discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes. Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado, sorry,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mixon,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Councilman Thomas, as the minority leader, you have the floor, sir.
Sure. This is financial resolution number 1 for the Work and Families Party. Let it be resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year of 2024 to 2025 be amended to reflect a decrease of $130,000 to police 00212, row 710, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect an increase of $130,000 to developmental services 00420, row 1409, object number 420009, licensing and inspections for the creation of a full-time position of tenant liaison, whose duties shall include supporting tenants with open complaints about their landlords, coordinating inspections and emergency repairs of rental housing, informing tenants of their rights and the resources available to them, and otherwise ensuring that the residents of Hartford have access to safe, affordable rental housing. This position is to be public-facing and should hold regular public meetings and collaborate with housing advocates, tenants groups, and other stakeholders in Hartford to achieve equity for tenants and landlord disputes, and humane housing for all residents of rental units within the city. Such tenant liaison shall be a Hartford resident or shall become a Hartford resident within 6 months of being hired.
Second.
The motion has been properly made and second. Any discussion? Councilman Mitchum.
Just by way of explanation, the money that's taken here from the police department is from the ammo and uniforms lines, which have been, I guess, over budgeted in the sense that if you look back over the last many years, the police department has never actually spent as much on ammo or uniforms as is budgeted. So we just took a little of that money and put it over to the tenant liaison position. You may remember the mayor created that position and gave its duties to Judith Rothschild, who was already doing another job in the Development Services Department. The goal here is to let Ms. Rothschild, who has a lot to do her other duties, and have someone who is solely dedicated to advocating for tenants who make up 75% of the residents of Hartford.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchum. Mr. Town Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
MIA.
I don't know.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mickham,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas,
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader. Now we will go to the non-financial resolution. We're all finished with our financial resolution.
Thank you, Council President. Make a motion, non-financial resolution, DEMS 1. Whereas the effective functioning of boards and commissions is essential to the governance and well-being of our community, and whereas the members of these boards and commissions play a critical role in advising and making decisions that impact various aspects of our city, and whereas a structured training program will enhance the preparedness and effectiveness of board and commission members, leading to more efficient and knowledgeable service to the community, and resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect the Court of Common Council encourage the mayor's office to require all interested applicants to boards and commissions to participate in a training program prior to accepting a seat on a board or commission or within the first 3 months of accepting a seat, and be it further resolved, the mayor's office will work in collaboration with the clerk's office and city council for the development and implementation of such a training program, and be it further resolved, the mayor's office shall provide periodic updates to the city council on the progress of the program development and implementation, and a final report once the program is fully operational, and provide a written report back to the city council by the end of the calendar year.
Second.
A motion has been properly made and second. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mickham,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion, non-financial resolution DEMS 2, resolve that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect, whereas given the resemblance in services between the City of Hartford and the Hartford Board of Education, HPS, consolidating those government services could result in a better use of resources, and whereas, for example, both the City of Hartford Public Works Department and BOE have building and grounds divisions, and the City of Hartford maintain fields at school facilities. Both agency has a printing shop, budget division, and human resources. Now be it resolved that the mayor's office, through the chief operating office, study the viability of consolidating services of both organizations and provide a written report back to the city council by the end of the calendar year.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mickham,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion, non-financial resolution DEMS 3. Resolve that the Department of Human Resources explore the creation of a pathway to employment program, allowing residents a gateway to employment within the city of Hartford, be further resolved that departments of the city will have the ability to collaborate with the Pathways program to provide training and offer credited hours of experience to participants, and be it further resolved, this collaborative partnership will allow for the city of Hartford to equip residents with the skills needed for employment while creating a pipeline of talent to city departments, and be it further resolved that the goal of the program will be to transition participants to full-time employment with the city of Hartford, granting them opportunity to earn competitive wages and benefits. The Department of Human Resources will provide a written report back to the City Council by the end of the calendar year.
Thank you, Madam Majority Leader.
Second.
Oh, thank you. Being fast, aren't I going? Mr. Town Clerk.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mickham,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thanks to Council President. I make a motion, Dems non-financial resolution number 4. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 24-25 be amended to reflect that whereas an absent food waste program attracts animal vectors such as rats and is one of the major contributors to nuisance odors and landfill contaminants, whereas the Natural Resource Defense Council found that up to 40% of food waste in the United States, accounting for losses at every step of the supply chain. When food is wasted, valuable energy, water, and land resources are also wasted. Whereas food waste links with social issues, large quantities of edible foods are being wasted while we have residents experiencing food insecurity. According to a 2012 study by the University of Connecticut, 12.7% of Connecticut residents were living in households deemed food insecure. Now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Hartford work with local waste collection companies such as All Waste and Blue Earth to create a food waste program in the City of Hartford, also promoting partnership with Quantum Biopower, the only anaerobic food waste facility in the state, to turn organic material such as food waste into renewable energy.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly second. Is there any discussion? Seeing and hearing of discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mickham,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. I make a motion for Dems non-financial resolution number 5. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 24-25 be amended to reflect that whereas the Department of Development Services, Division of License and Inspection, create an expedited fee schedule that will ensure a more rapid permitting process, thus promoting quality services to individuals and/or businesses doing business in the City of Hartford and attract more development and new businesses as well. Resolved that the Department of Development Services, Division of Licenses and Inspection, will provide the Court of Common Council with a preliminary report of a proposed expedited fee schedule within 45 days of the passage of this resolution. Be it further resolved, the report shall include a complete expedited fee schedule to include the license and inspection permit fees and fines and land use regulation fee schedule.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been properly made and second. Any discussion? Sure. Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. Through you, just very briefly, I would just like to offer a friendly amendment to amend the 45 days to end of calendar year. Without objection.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Town Clerk, do you have that amendment?
I don't have it in front of me.
Okay.
but
We will.
I got it.
We can provide that to you in writing, sir. Or.
I got it.
Okay. The amendment, well, it's really an amendment from the Dems who has, there is non-financial. So we're okay. It's been properly made and second with the amendment. Mr. Town Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mictum,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. Non-financial resolution DEM 6, resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for the fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect improvements, upgrading the current public address system and microphones so as to provide a more efficient acoustics in council chambers.
Thank you.
Second.
Can I double second that? Oh, okay.
Couldn't hear that.
All right. The motion has been properly made and second. Any discussion? Seeing and hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Mictum,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Now we go on to the non-financial resolution for the Hartford Party. Councilman Gale, you've got the floor, sir.
Thank you, Madam President. I move for adoption, Hartford Party non-financial resolution number 1, calling for a state study of the effects of the Sheffield O'Neill case. Whereas Article 8 of the Constitution of the State of Connecticut provides that there shall be free public elementary and secondary schools in the state. And whereas various court cases, including famously the 1996 Sheff v. O'Neill case, have interpreted this provision to require that the state provide substantially equal educational opportunities for all. Should I start again?
Yep, please do.
Okay, my apologies. I move adoption of Hartford Party non-financial resolution number 1, calling for a state study of the effects of the Sheff v. O'Neill case. Whereas Article 8 of the Constitution of the State of Connecticut provides that there shall be free public elementary and secondary schools in the state, and whereas various court cases, including famously the 1996 Sheff v. O'Neill case, have interpreted this provision to require that the state provide substantially equal educational opportunity for all. And whereas the state has now attempted to implement the holding of the Sheff case for almost 30 years, now therefore resolved that the Court of Common Council for the City of Hartford calls upon the state of Connecticut to study the effects of the state's implementation of the Sheff case and the advisability of change, specifically addressing whether school children in the state's cities have benefited from the implementation and whether the cities themselves have benefited from the implementation.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been made and properly second. Is there any discussion? Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. I would just like to build upon earlier comments that have been made by my colleagues, Councilman Mictum and Councilman Clark, addressing the conundrum we face here in the city of Hartford with respect to education. In some part, I'm not sure what part, but this study may help us understand better if it is in fact undertaken. The Sheff v. O'Neill case seems to have had a dramatic impact on education in the city of Hartford. It does require substantial expenses from our budget, as was described to us by our superintendent when she presented the budget at our budget hearings. And I think if you went around town, you'd get mixed reports from people as to whether they think the overall impact of the Sheff v. O'Neill case has been a net positive or a net detriment to the city of Hartford. So I'm calling for us to perhaps get some metrics on that, and that's the thrust behind this non-financial resolution. Thank you.
Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Madam President. I do support this because I think that we need to take a deep dive into this situation and how it has, due to this case, one can argue that this has basically blown the Board of Ed's budget out of the waters because of what now we have as law, which is really not benefiting Hartford residents as one would think. Is actually hurting our families and killing the community school model, which if we don't do something about it, it probably will cease to exist. And this, one can argue, is the fact that this has added to the financial burden of our school system. And so when we take a look at budgets every year and how they're ballooning, it's because of the money is following the child, and so it's going out of the school district, and monies are not being reciprocated by coming back into the city. So I do support Councilman Gill in this and hope that we can work with the mayor's office and the Board of Ed and their team to get and also to the state to do a study so we can really take a look at how this has been affecting our school district.
Thank you, Majority Leader. Seeing no more discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. I move adoption of Hartford Party Non-Financial Resolution Number 2, calling for a state study of the effects of local funding for special education needs. Again, whereas Article 8 of the Constitution of the State of Connecticut provides that there shall be free public elementary and secondary schools in the state, and whereas various court cases, including famously the 1996 Sheff v. O'Neill case, have interpreted this provision to require that the state provide substantially equal educational opportunity for all, and whereas notwithstanding, the state requires that all towns provide and pay for special education students, regardless of the cost, up to a cap of roughly $100,000 per student. Whereas, as regards the city of Hartford, the city has about 250 students for whom the city reaches this cap, meaning that the city is spending $25 million on these students. Whereas it is likely that this cost falls disproportionately upon the city when the cost is more appropriately a state expense. Now, therefore, resolved that the Court of Common Council for the City of Hartford calls upon the State of Connecticut to study the effects on the ability of the towns in the state to provide substantially equal educational opportunity for all, while at the same time providing special education for those with needs, specifically to determine whether funding for special education should equitably be a state expense and not an expense of each town.
Mr. Town.
Second.
Thank you. The motion has been properly made and second. Councilman Gale.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And again, this is another resolution that is focused on the somewhat crisis that we're facing with our educational system here in the city of Hartford. And again, at our budget hearings, we learned that we are facing these dramatic expenses with respect to special education. And this is not in the least to imply that special education shouldn't receive these expenses, but it is to question whether those expenses are more appropriately a state expense, and whether, in fact, by pushing this burden onto the cities, the state is disproportionately and negatively affecting the city, especially the city of Hartford. Should the state of Connecticut take over the special education costs, as I expect the study might show, this would be a dramatic relief for the budget for the city of Hartford's Board of Education. So this is just simply asking that the matter be looked at. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilman Mitchum.
Just to add to that, I think we all know here, as to both of the Hartford Party non-financial resolutions, which call for studies, I think we all have an instinct about what the conclusions of the studies are going to be, because in governing this city, in raising children in this city, we are living it. We see it happen. And I think even when those studies, if they should be done, come back and we get those results, the work will still be to make the legislature and the folks who are not raising children in this city care. And I say this only to say, for anyone who watches this, this is the work of the next year, almost more than anything that we do. It is a constant agitation and harrowing and bothering and lobbying of the legislature to inject some measure of humanity into their approach to education funding in this state. So I hope, in addition to these resolutions, everyone who has the power to influence the legislature will do so.
Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you, I do support this. I think that this is something that's much needed. I've stated before, I am a father of two in the Hartford public school system. I think I'm the only one that has, no, your kids are in the school system, okay. So Councilman Misham and I share.
One who graduated, one's still in.
Okay, so we share, so it's three. So we share a passion for, I would not even say righting the wrongs, just doing I think what we feel is our duty to do so. We don't control the Board of Ed's budget, but we are here to support. But we can do our part, and we would need the board and the superintendent to do their part in making sure that we are providing our students, our children, with an equitable education that they rightfully deserve. And the only way to do it is really partnering with our colleagues in the General Assembly to really do this type of work to alleviate the pressure and the burden that has been placed on this city and parents. So I hope that we can work together to get this done, and I look forward to working with the rest of my colleagues for the foreseeable future in getting this situated. Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me just say, I may not have any children in the school system, but all our kids in the city of Hartford belongs to all of us. Thank you. I do 100% support this non-financial resolution that Councilman Gale has placed in front of us, including the one with special education. I think the special education, more than anything else, is dramatically the cost is affecting the imbalance and the cost to our city budget right now. And so this is one of the structural changes. I look forward to working with Councilman Gale on and the state legislators and our Hartford Public High School board to really lobby the state legislators to make some structural changes that is going to affect our Board of Education budget. So I urge all my colleagues to definitely 100% support this resolution that Councilman Gale has placed in front of us. Mr. Town Clerk.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Zeddy,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Mr. Minority, any one of you guys? You got one more?
Two more.
Two more. Oh, yes, we do. You're
Two
number
more.
3. I apologize, Councilman Gale. Please finish your non-financial resolution presentation.
Thank you, Council President. And I'm actually going to take these slightly out of order. I'm going to do number 4 first because logically it makes more sense. I think you'll see why. I move for adoption of non-financial resolution Hartford Party number 4, calling for reduced prescriptive drug costs. Whereas American spending on pharmaceuticals is nearly 3 times the average of other advanced industrialized countries that comprise the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development. And whereas a study by the RAND Corporation, a nonpartisan research organization, found that across all drugs, U.S. prices were 2.78 times higher than the prices in 33 OECD countries. The gap was even larger for brand-name drugs, with U.S. prices averaging 4.2 times higher than those in comparison nations. And whereas, as a dramatic example of this discrepancy, in the city of Hartford, which self-funds a prescriptive drug plan for its employees, 1.4% of the prescriptions purchased accounted for 50% of the total cost of all prescriptions purchased by the City of Hartford. Now therefore resolved that the Court of Common Council for the City of Hartford calls upon the State of Connecticut to study the ability of the state to reduce these prescriptive drug costs to Connecticut towns and residents.
Second.
Motion's been properly made and second. Discussion. Councilman Gale.
Just quick, by way of explanation, again, this matter came before council dramatically in our budget hearings when we were told of these statistics, that 1.4% of all the prescriptions accounted for half of the budget. And so the resolution is calling on the state to see if it can do something to ameliorate this problem on behalf of the towns. I know the state of Connecticut has been active in the past, looking at ways to provide affordable health care. And I know there are various models out there that call for plans where the state perhaps becomes the purchaser of drugs in bulk or otherwise works with the drug companies to try to reduce drug costs. So this resolution is seeking some assistance from the state of Connecticut to help a part of our budget, which is not insignificant, help drive those costs down. Thank you.
Discussion. Let me just also add, Councilman Gale, is to actually make this part of our legislative package for the next fiscal year, because it's something that, you know, it has a dramatic effect on our budget, even though we are self-funded. Mr. Town, any more discussion? Seeing no more discussion, Mr. Town Clerk?
Councilwoman Surgeon.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti.
Yes.
Councilman Clark.
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez.
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau.
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado.
Yes.
Councilman Gale.
Yes.
Councilman Mickham.
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Councilman John Gale.
Last one, Madam President. I move adoption of a non-financial resolution, Hartford Party number 3, calling for a federal and state study of the effects of advertising of prescriptive drugs. Whereas prescriptive drugs, by definition, are only available by prescription from a licensed medical provider. And whereas, nonetheless, the makers of prescription drugs have free rein to advertise their various products, thereby encouraging the public to initiate conversations regarding specific drugs with their provider. And whereas, formerly, providers initiated all conversations regarding prescriptive medications. Now, therefore, resolved that the Court of Common Council of the City of Hartford calls upon the United States and the State of Connecticut to study the effects of advertising of prescriptive drugs to determine whether the ability to advertise these drugs has been a net benefit or a net detriment to the nation.
Second.
Thank you. The motion is properly made and second. Councilman Gale.
Thank you, Madam President. This really picks up on the financial resolution, non-financial resolution that we just passed, where it was pointed out that 1.4% of all prescriptions amounted to 50% of the expense. There are prescriptions out there that have incredibly high prices associated with them, and many of these prescriptions are the ones that we are now seeing advertised in the media. You see them on television, you see them in other places advertised, whereas there was a time when these were not advertised. I think it's interesting to speculate, and I think we really ought to have some data as to whether this type of advertising has actually been a net benefit to people, allowing them more choice and more knowledge, or whether this has been a net detriment, and that's what the thrust of this non-financial resolution is. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Let me also add to the discussion, Councilman Gale, I totally agree with you with the cost of these prescriptions, and I wholeheartedly going to work with you as far as the state of Connecticut is concerned to make sure that, you know, we lobby our Hartford delegation to make sure this happens. You know, going to United States, the Congress, and we have two very wonderful, Congressman Larson, U.S. Senator Blumenthal, you know, we have some great, and now Senator, U.S. Senator Murphy, we've got some great delegation that represents Hartford But I know my concerns taken to the state capitol, and making that changes there will be something which I think if I can get that done, it's then I can also influence a national coverage of this. So even though I do support the concept, I am going to vote no on this resolution. Mr. Town Clerk.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
No.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Migdon,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Now we go to the Working Family Non-Financial. Sister Majority Leader, or are you going to do it, Josh?
We're going to trade off.
I'm sorry, Minority. He's both. Okay. Well, go right ahead. Whoever has the floor, go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam President. Non-financial resolution, Working Families number 1, resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect a decrease of $15,000 currently budgeted for Councilman Migdom's stipend, Court of Common Council 00112, and be it further resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be further amended to reflect an increase of $15,000 distributed on a pro rata basis to the salaries or wages of all city council executive assistants, such that the portion of the monies be divided and paid to them in proportion to the percentage of a full work week for which they are routinely paid from council funds.
Second.
Motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussion? Councilman Mitchum.
Just by way of explanation, we all get a stipend for our service here on council. I would love to take that stipend and spend it on a long weekend in the Caribbean or something. However, my day job, the Division of Public Defender Services, does not let me have paid outside employment, so I cannot take the stipend. And so what we have done in all my years here is just divvy it up among the council aides according to whether they are full or part-time, and it ends up usually coming down around Christmas, so it's a nice little budget. This is not my generosity. This is the public defender's miserliness, but that's what it is.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchum. Well, thank you, Councilman Mitchum. Is there any more discussion?
Sure.
Councilman Thomas.
Yeah, I'll just be quick and just say in a public space, like, I think it's something that the executive assistants, everyone that works for council appreciates. Josh, and just want to publicly affirm you for putting that forward and doing that, and it's a nice thing to do. And it coming around Christmas time is just a bigger blessing. So I'm thankful for you and proud of you, and I know other people are thankful for you as well.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas. Let me add to the discussion. Since I've been in this office, this is going on my second term. Councilman Mitchum knows that I've never supported this. I always recommend the funds go back to the general funds. It's the residents who actually, through the charter, voted for us to get a small stipend. I think the staff works amicable. They are the greatest supporters, because without them, I know I couldn't function here at City Hall. However, because of my belief in that, I will not be able to vote for this resolution. Seeing no more discussion, Mr. Town Clerk.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Bilodeau,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Migdon,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Councilman Thomas?
Yes, so I make a motion, this is non-financial resolution number 2. Let it be resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect that the City of Hartford's Office of Equity and Opportunity will conduct the citywide language justice audit to determine the biggest needs for improved translation and interpretation services across all departments. Let it also be resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect that the Office of Equity and Opportunity will develop and publicly present a report of their findings, including recommendations for improvements and investments no later than February 28th, 2025.
Thank you, Councilman Thomas.
Second.
Great. The motion has been properly made and seconded. Any discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Okay, Councilman Mitchell, you have the floor.
Thank you, Madam President. I make a motion that we adopt non-financial resolution working parties family number 3. Resolved that the mayor's recommended budget for fiscal year 2024-2025 be amended to reflect that the City of Hartford's Police Department will only conduct purchasing of new vehicles under available state programs to add, there's a tiny typo that I realize there's a missing word here, but it would say, to add HPD to the terms of state police purchasing contracts unless it seeks prior approval from the city's chief operating officer.
Second.
So would you make that change and give that to the town clerk? Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
Second with amendment.
Thank you. The motion has been made with an amendment and properly second. Are there any discussion? Councilman Mitchell.
By way of explanation, this came up during our budget hearings, that there is a state program that allows municipalities to purchase police vehicles and other vehicles according to the same terms that the state has with vendors. And so the state police have a contract where they're provided with good prices, I guess, on police vehicles. And it had come out that the Hartford Police don't buy all of their vehicles from that contract, and sometimes instead buy more expensive equivalent vehicles not available through that contract. And this would just subject their purchasing to roughly the same amount of oversight that other fleet purchases get in the city. And there is, of course, a fail-safe, which is that if there's some good reason why they can't get the vehicle they need through the state program, they can just go to the chief operating officer and say, please, and then they can still go outside the program. So it's just a little bit of fiscal oversight on their vehicle purchasing, which if they had gone through the state program last year and every year for the last several, would have saved us on the order of $200,000 a year.
Thank you, Councilman Mitchell. Any more discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Surgeon,
No.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
No.
Councilman Clark,
No.
Councilman Hernandez,
Nope.
Councilman Billadu,
No.
Councilman Rosado,
No.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion failed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader, we're going to move on now to our next item on the agenda. And where are we going first, Madam Majority Leader?
We are going first. I make a motion to move the adoption of the CIP.
Second.
Okay. The motion is on the floor and is properly second to adopt the CIP budget. Is there any discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion for the CIP motion on the floor, Mr. Town Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader, where we go next?
We go to make a motion to move adoption of the general fund appropriation ordinance as amended by the previous financial resolutions.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilwoman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Madam Majority Leader.
Thank you very much. I make a motion to move adoption of the tax levy ordinance.
Second.
The motion has been made and properly second. Are there any discussion? Seeing or hearing no discussion, Mr. Town Clerk, please call the roll, please.
Councilwoman Surgeon,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rossetti,
Yes.
Councilman Clark,
Yes.
Councilman Hernandez,
Yes.
Councilman Billadu,
Yes.
Councilwoman Rosado,
Yes.
Councilman Gale,
Yes.
Councilman Micklem,
Yes.
Councilman Thomas.
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you, Mr. Town Clerk. Wow. Wow. I think I will open the floor up to any discussion from the council member, Majority Leader.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to take a minute to say thank you to our Council President. Thank you to my colleagues. Understanding we all love the city. We all come from a place that I believe is honest and true. We don't always agree, but I'm honored to be able to have the discussions that we have. This is my, I don't know, 12th budget, something like that. And it never gets easier, but I honestly believe, for me, we work the hardest and we do what we think is best. And, you know, there's not always, I think my colleague, Councilman Clark always says about a silver bullet, but we have a lot of opportunities ahead of us. We have a lot of work in the next year on a variety of things. But I really wanted to thank everybody around here today, because I really feel, particularly for some folks who it was their first time, I really want to thank you. I just really want to thank you, so thanks.
Assistant Majority Leader Clark.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Madam President, through you. Congratulations to everyone. It was great going through this budget process with you, and to the Council President, the Council leadership, our staff, the Town Clerk and the Town Clerk's office, to HPA-TV, to everyone, even to Julian and his team of management budget. Thank you very much. This may look easy to a lot, but it's hard. This is hard work. Councilman Gale can speak to how many times we've been through this rodeo, and it's our 9th budget, and we're still doing this. Nobody ever gets what they want. Thank you to the Corporation Council. Yeah, this is your first budget as well, Attorney Harding. But I think this shows that there is a commitment to the residents of the city of Hartford and to the children, that we are fulfilling our obligated duties. There's no new taxes, no tax increases, no mill rate increases. This was a very tight budget, and we still want to have a lot of work to do to make sure that we are working on behalf of the people. But I think this is the first time I can recall that it being a unanimous vote on the city council in quite some time. So that says a lot. And so we got 4 more years to go. Well, 3 more budgets to go. But let's really continue to do the work. And, you know, as we look to figure out how we're going to really sustain our city's finances for some years to come. So thank you very much for your hard work and your input, and I look forward to continuing to work with you all.
Thank you. Councilman Thomas.
I just wanted to publicly affirm and agree with Assistant Majority Leader and Majority Leader Rossetti and Assistant Majority Leader T.J. Clark. But I just wanted to take a moment and publicly affirm Amilcar, our Councilman Hernandez, for his work and for the budget hearings and organizing a lot of that. I just wanted to say awesome job to you as the chairman of OMBGA. And this was my first budget process. And for a lot of times, I felt like I was drowning a little bit, and I just wanted to publicly say thank you to all of my council colleagues for reaching out and, you know, asking if I needed any help with anything, and just, you know, making me feel like part of the team, and I appreciate that. Thank you.
Councilwoman Billadu.
Thank you, Council President. Just want to say thank you to the Council President. First and foremost, my first time behind the budget was very good experience, and I was happy to work with everybody. Not to say that we don't go through difficult moments, but we really work together to prioritize the needs of the city, and it's never easy because I think we all love the city so much that we want to give everything to everybody, but also, thankful to the well-thought-out budget presentations that came to us and came before us that helps us to make better decisions and to understand what each department needs. And thank you to everybody in this room and all the support staff who help us get here, the town clerk's office. Thank you all for the great first opportunity.
All right, well, guess, I'll be the last one to comment. This is my first year working with Councilman Hernandez. And I want to take my hat off to him. He put together a great budget period of time over several weeks, and what we didn't have to do a very long late nights. So thank you for that. Really was really appropriate. And also his staff, Noelia. The amount of emails that come in, from all of us, and all the emails she had to, distribute to everyone. I want to thank you so very much for keeping us, really and truly, keeping us on track. So thank you. This is your first year, but I couldn't desire any better from the leadership Councilman Mendes has been given as the OMB chair. I also want to thank Councilman Gale, and I want to thank Councilman Mitchum and Councilman Thomas. Thank you for working with us. This was a choice. We had a choice of how to make and support our city. And this choice wasn't choices that a lot of us would want more, want to give more. We all really support the education, or especially our schools. But we also have to think about the well-being of our city. We also have to think about our vulnerable seniors that lives in our city. And I think this is a fair budget that protects our schools, it protects our seniors, and I want to thank you and working with us to make that happen. The joint resolution, I've never seen it done before, where all 9 council person work together to fund $1 million to the school system. More than anything else, Julian, I want to take my hat off to you, because I want to tell you, very late weekends, you were there to actually give us some feedback on where, how we want to move things. And you would tell us straight up, nah, I don't think it's a good idea. So thank you for your support, and thank all the council members. And, we have a great team here. And I do hope that we may not all agree, but one thing is that we will agree to disagree, and we'll make this a great place in our city to live. So thank you all. Thank my Dems. Thank everyone for their support. So seeing that any more comments, I am going to adjourn this council meeting, this budget hearing. Thank you, everyone. 3:30, we got